a significantly small percentage of people are going to pay out of pocket for Hinge Health, the consumer, the actual consumer that is paying their own hard-earned dollars. That is why they pivoted to in-person visits, in-person physical therapy, house calls.
So let's pivot just a little bit, talking about Hinge Health. I had kind of forgotten about that topic, but I will say, preface this, about once every month or two, somebody in the family sends me a screenshot of a flyer or an email or something they received through work saying that they could get free physical therapy, virtual physical therapy, and it kind of brings it back on the radar. So Dave has a great interview with Brian Williams. You guys have amazing conversation. And I was rewatching it again this morning before I came in. But Hinge Health came back on my radar because yesterday I was scrolling through LinkedIn and I saw a therapist post a job opening for Hinge Health. And it said, hey, come work with me at Hinge Health, pelvic floor, women's health. I was like, oh, I wonder what their job, posting looks like. So I go and I take a look and it's awesome. I mean, I was blown away. I was so impressed by the quality of the job listing, what they were promoting, what they were doing. And I know, I go back to, there was all this controversy about them calling it, was it virtual physical therapy, AI physical therapy? Is there a physical therapist? So, of course, I shared that post. I got another inbound message or two from other therapists who work at Hinge. And I was genuinely impressed. Like, it sounds like they're doing amazing. They're doing a great job. They're moving in the right direction. I don't think we have an accurate depiction because I think we, and it's the royal we as therapists in general, think either we're going to lose our job because it's going to be AI physical therapy and that's not real physical therapy. And if I can't touch people and I can't, connect with people, then it's not effective. But I still stand true to that perspective that there is a huge demographic, that doesn't want to be touched, that doesn't want to bother with a person, that wants a solution, wants an answer, wants to do it themselves. Huge. Or as like my cousin Vinny, huge. It's a huge demographic. And we just don't even know because, again, we're not talking to those people because those people aren't even putting us in their ecosystem. They're not giving us a chance. I think this opens a big door for us.
Dave disagrees. We love when that happens.
You know what I want? I want a virtual roofer to come over and I want a virtual house painter to come over.
So what's interesting about that, Jimmy just said, I don't want to talk to them on the phone for the moving company. I just want to fill out a form. Right. I want them to tell me, I'm putting words in your mouth now, how much it costs, when it can be done, and just get it done. So yeah, you're never going to get a virtual physical therapist unless we get that robot, that $60,000, $80,000 robot that does the massage for us and we can send it to their house. Not going to happen, but I would use the robot. But that being said, that's not the demographic for this. The demographic for this is the person who's just like, I don't even know what my doctor said. They're giving me this order for exercise, but I'm in too much pain. What? I every single week, I have at least 2 or 3 people who are like, I don't know why I'm here. I've got back pain. I can barely walk. My doctor wants me to exercise. That's crazy. You haven't even gotten an MRI. How can you know what to do for me? That's what the patients tell me every single day. And you put that person behind a screen. Now, at least they have a little sense of security. They don't trust you. They don't like you. They don't know you. So you give them a little space and maybe some of them will come so you can rub their back. I don't want to do that, but there are therapists who do. But I think we can have access to just so many more people.
I love the comparison between Jimmy McKay finding a mover, which Brian Williams and I discussed this in the Hinge Health is Dead episode on the Dave Kittle show. Uber, Lyft, car rides, even moving. Now, moving is a little more emotional with your stuff and all that baggage, pun intended. Like, I get it, but moving someone and their stuff is way more transactional. It's closer to, I want to ride to the airport. I don't care if it's Lyft, Uber, Harbor car service, I don't, whatever. As long as they have a pulse and they kind of drive safely, and I don't even ask if they have a license or if they're insured or whatever. Like, no one asked that, right? So there's things nowadays that are more transactional. But someone putting their hands on you, Tony, I agree. Or someone who's a healthcare provider that now they're going to ask you questions that's going to bring up maybe emotional triggers, or it's going to bring up previous injuries or car accidents or other emotions, and you're trying to build a relationship. That is very different. I would say we're closer to, I don't know, like what realtors do and what people do at like Rotary and like the PTA and all that. Like, it takes time, it builds relationships. And Brian Williams and I discussed this. There's a difference between whether it's home therapy or outpatient therapy, way more on the relationship side, and other things that are way more on the transactional side. Yes, Jimmy doesn't care about calling in. He wants speed. He wants to get it going. And he doesn't really care. They're not asking him like, so why are you moving? And tell me how that makes you feel and all that.
Right. Brian Williams graduated Marymount University. Go Saints. So I think it all depends, right? This is like good. Like, I'm positioned in the middle of Tony and Dave on the video. I jotted down some notes. There's Home Depot, there's handymen, and there's contractors. I can do some stuff myself. I don't know a whole lot. When I bought this house, I owned a screwdriver and a drill, right? So I was going to Home Depot for some stuff. Some stuff was out of my league. I went to a neighbor or a handyman, and then sometimes it's like full on contractor, right? Some moments I want to drive and I want to be in complete control because I want a road trip. I want the experience. And sometimes I just want to ride to the airport. As you mentioned, Dave, how many times have we ever asked if that person even has a license? How many times have you been asked if you have a college degree? My running count, 0 times. But it depends, right? And I know it's cliche in this profession to say like everything depends, but it does. So I think there's a time and there's a place for it. I think like an app like a Hinge Health or virtual care, there's a place for it. I don't think either end is going to go away. I think this virtual thing is just coming on, so we're questioning its viability. But the fact that there are apps like that, because sometimes I just want a little bit of information. Sometimes I just want the information really quickly. I think you can keep overhead low and you can reach so many people that you would only need to charge this much. Or what Hinge Health is doing too, you go onto Hinge Health's app and you type in your employer and it figures it out for you, right? Because there's that big stumbling block. I don't need to like figure out my insurance before I get an Uber. I just go onto Hinge and I'm like, I don't know, what's our insurance again? And I type it in, we got it. Same as Warby Parker. It's like, just take a picture of your prescription from your eye doctor. We got it. Like, they understand the biggest initial pain point to getting that person to begin the process. You remove that barrier. I just wanted a quote. Is moving $1,000 or is it $10,000? If it's $10,000, I'm going to go pay my friends and rent a truck. If it's $1,000, take my money.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're right. There's people who want transaction. There's people who want relationship. But I think that we miss the people who initially want transactional because they don't know what it's like. They have no idea. They come in here and they have no idea what to expect. And so you can imagine, like, I always say this about massage therapy. I'm like, wait, you want me to go into a room, take off my clothes and lay on a table with somebody I've never met, who I have no idea who they are, like, it's the most bizarre thing to most of my geriatric patients. Obviously, we have cultural sensitivities and all this other stuff. In physical therapy, I mean, there's plenty of physical therapists that expect patients to take off their shirt the first day they meet them. Like, there's therapists who think I'm going to touch you the first day I meet you. It completely skips so many steps in the process of building trust and building a relationship. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I was going to say, you had just commented on a comment from, or a quote from Mark Cardula, which is the great question to ask at the end of a session, which is, have I met your expectations? It'd be also great to ask before. What are your expectations of today?
I ask every single one of my patients, I'm like, so what are you expecting us to do today? What do you think we're going to, achieve? What are you hoping to see? And every time it's, I have no idea. I have no idea what to expect. My doctor just told me to come here. I'm amazed anybody ever goes to physical therapy when their doctor tells them to go to physical therapy. So that's the population that I think we need a low barrier entry. We need less friction. To Jimmy's point, it's free, it's easy, let's give this a try. And then a small portion of them might go to the next phase, might build a relationship. But when we talk about that number, 7% or whatever, people with low back pain actually go to therapy, I'm amazed it's that high. And interestingly enough, we don't even have enough therapists to serve that population.
Right. Right.
So we need to offload this huge demand. And this is just one tool that can do it. What's he saying?
I love this comment from Will. And it doesn't even, it's not about physical therapy. It's about business, right? Will says what he loves about these competing or complementary ideas is that we can leverage tools for mass marketing to see what lands with more prospects and see what gets them to take action. This is why I was in radio. There were 3 reasons people got into radio. You wanted to be famous, you loved music, or the science experiment, the social, live, real-time science experiment. I liked music. I didn't mind being in front of people, but this is what it was. I want therapists or everybody listening to understand you're in this business. You have to be in this business, which is sort of changing what you do and then using these tools, right? Hormozy said it the other day. I listen to it a lot. Whenever I get frustrated with anything I'm doing, there's 3 ways to reach people. You run ads to get in front of them, you create content to get in front of them, or you meet them one-on-one. Tony and I, just to throw in a plug, we're going to be meeting people one-on-one at APTA's PPS, Private Practice Section Conference in a couple of weeks. While we're there, we're going to be recording content with them. So we're doing 2 birds in 1 stone. But I know you are altruistic. I know you want to help people. I don't even care what business you're in. I want you to understand what Will just said. You can have these ideas. This is why I think this is what attracted me to Tony at first. Online, which was you were just doing stuff and you were like, hey, here's how it's going. It sucks. And I was like, look at somebody else like showing that they took a leap and it didn't work. I just learned a lot from that. Hey, guess what? I'm not going to step in that pothole. But what did he learn from it? Hey, well, 90% of it was a fail, but here was a happy accident. I want people to understand that as a therapist, you're in this business of trying stuff. If you don't, when Medicare cuts things, you will cease to exist. All those clinics that are going out of business are not adaptable.
So 2 things that came out of Dave's interview with Brian Williams. If you haven't watched it, go to the Dave Kittle show.
It's a good one.
Look for Hinge is Dead. It's an awesome interview. But 2 things that came up. I was shocked when Brian Williams said that if you just want exercise, go see a personal trainer. That blew my mind. Because the ultimate irony, and I guess this is what keeps the dynamic going, to me, the easiest thing in the world I can do is rub someone's back and make them feel better. The hardest thing I can do is use exercise to make them stronger and healthier and more resilient. And I feel like, the difference between us and a personal trainer is that we absolutely have the depth of knowledge and understanding of physiology and psychology and emotions and endocrine system and all that stuff to use exercise as an effective tool. I was just blown away. What was your thought on that? Because I couldn't tell if you were like, yeah, personal trainers are better or whatever. What do you think?
I agree with you, Tony. I would say, like, especially our older geriatric population clientele, like they need mobility, they need movement. Some of our clientele, like, they're scheduling us, whatever times a week. And like, that might be like one of the only big times that day that they're actually moving other than to use the restroom in their apartment. So I agree with you, Tony. And I don't completely agree with Brian on that about movement, exercise. And if they just want that, personal trainers, I agree with you, Tony, that is a big challenge or hurdle for any physical therapist, for some clientele, to be able to educate them and have them do it. And you're right, it is easier to just kind of rub their back and have them do something passive. So I do agree with that.
Yeah. Decide if that's a patient population you want to work with. I don't think I understood how little some older adults move until some people close to me got a little older. I was like, wait a minute, like that's all, not that I always had a soft spot in my heart for physical therapists who work in geriatrics. I think my soft spot has only grown and my understanding of their importance has only gone way, 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 way up, which is but it's hard to communicate that when you're sitting in class in PT school, right? Especially when you're 25 and you're about to go bang out a CrossFit workout. And you're like, yeah, old people. But understanding what that value is and how much either that person would pay for it, or I don't want to say pay for it, but pay for it in their time and their investment, or how much that person's family would be like, yes, get them moving, please, please, please. I'm seeing everything decline physically, mentally, emotionally. These other 2 decline as that person stops moving. It's not good.
The other part of your interview that I thought was so interesting was you guys looked at the move that Hinge was making from all digital, all online to in person as basically as, oh, they're failing. This is proof, the model doesn't work. But I didn't see it that way. From my perspective, if I was starting a company today, I'm like, especially at a venture-backed size, and now that I understand that world a little bit better, I'm like, I can't grow $1 billion company on the back of a human therapist. It's never going to happen. It's not scalable enough. So what I need to do is I would start digital, grow as much as I could digital, and then I could start to roll in the human aspect to it, because people understand humans, people understand services, people understand that a little bit easier. But I think the reason why they brought the human side to it is because, they want to improve kind of their background. They want to improve their image. People just understand, therapy has always been delivered by a human. But I think it's more to support the digital side than it is because the digital side wasn't profitable enough or wasn't successful enough. I just think you can't scale human services to a multiple billion-dollar valuation.
So you're saying, hold on a second. So let me see if I understand. So you're saying that this might have been in the plan all along, but you knew that the way to do it to scale is digital first and then the other way? Because I did look at it like, hey, they tried something and now they're pivoting.
Yeah, I think it's like Elon Musk and Tesla. They went super high end, really expensive, and then they started to bring the price down. I think these guys probably knew we can't grow to that size. We can't access enough capacity in human therapists. So how can we grow to $1 billion fast? Just do it all digital. Do it with an app.
And then work backwards and then come backwards to the model that already works instead of competing with everybody else in a crowded market. Dave, you're going to injure your neck. You're shaking your head so much.
Yes. So, I'm against Hinge Health. Fine with mentioning it again. Okay. So real quick, if people don't know, Hinge Health, they sell this benefit, this employee benefit to employers. So Tony talks about it all the time, like who's your customer? So for Hinge Health, their customer is either an insurance plan or it's a direct to employer plan. So they might have insurance companies that are the customer. They also definitely have the employer funded plans, and they're talking right to the employer, right? So then the actual employee, the actual quote unquote patient or client, is then not really the customer. But anyway, the employees get this for free. Guys, we've talked about it numerous times on the show. When something is typically for free, it's not really taken all that seriously. It doesn't appear valuable. It doesn't appear like something is all that meaningful. So yes, they are VC backed. They're a tech company also, by the way. So Hinge Health is a tech company. Them pivoting into in-home physical therapy visits is absolutely a pivot, and more so probably some grasp at some cash and profits, because I believe their core technology does not really work. And what I mean by that is, if these patients or clients were no longer employees of the Walmarts, the Cargill, the Facebook, whatever the big companies are where they get this for free, if that employee leaves that company, now they no longer get Hinge Health for free. And Hinge Health emails them and says, hey, this is $10 a month. This is $20 a month. This is $100 a month, whatever, for virtual, whatever. A significantly small percentage of people are going to pay out of pocket for Hinge Health, the consumer, the actual consumer that is paying their own hard-earned dollars. That is why they pivoted to in-person visits, in-person physical therapy, house calls, because the core technology does not really work. The end consumer doesn't find value in it. That's why.
Jimmy, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I would be nervous about that. It's hard. I see why they went the route they did, because it's easier to get 1,500 companies to say yes to something than it is to get 15 million or even 15,000 individuals to pay $10 a month. So I see where so it's B2B versus B2C. B2B is like, hey, here's a way to save 20% on your self insured, right, or here's a way to do this, and it's a delivery method. And hey, we're going to do the messy work for you. If they use it, great, and if they don't, also great. So I see why that's a value. I do think it goes back to Will Boyd's point, which is like, test it and see what it works. I feel like everybody in our profession should be paying attention to these models and seeing like, hey, are we as valuable as we think we are? Or sorry, is the perceived value of what we do in this method as valuable as we think it is? I mean, there are practitioners who are completely telehealth right now, right? But they're able to understand like what the process is. They're in a marketing department.
How many can you name that are 100% telehealth, that are a physical therapist? How many can you name?
Oh, I don't know. 5?
That are making a full-time living on it.
I don't know.
Because there's not that many in my opinion. There's not that many. And now we're out of COVID. I have some quotes. Can I give you guys a quote from a colleague that has a couple clinics, brick and mortar?
Yeah.
All right. So Ben Boggy, I asked his approval. He said yes, I could quote him. So Ben Boggy, cash practice. He's got a practice in San Diego, Des Moines, Iowa, and Oakland. So 2 different states. This is the same thing with Ron Miller, by the way, in Orlando, Florida. But Ben Boggy, I asked him last night because we're going to tee this up. So I asked him about telehealth, virtual visits, video visits, all that. And he says that they still offer it, but it's only a handful of visits each month. And it's usually when one of their patients or clients is traveling. Ben said that they don't advertise it, they don't promote it because his PTs don't enjoy it. They don't enjoy the telehealth video visits to deliver them. That's what he said. And then also it seems to be quite a bit of friction from patients anyways. So, and then Ron Miller in my practice, cash practices, no one is calling in asking for video visits anymore. No one's, at least us. Now, I'm trying to just give some anecdotal, points of view. But, and again, my only caveat is sometimes I'm like, is Tony right? Is there a critical mass of people that don't want manual therapy, that don't want to have in-person anything? I think Tony is overestimating that population of people. I think it's lower. Maybe it's somewhere in between. But in general, there's not many physical therapists making 80, 90, 100K a year doing all 100% video visits.
But let me pair these two things together. Where do you think this will be 2, 5, and 10 years from now?
It will not change. It will not change.
You don't think that generations and what people value changes over time? 5 years is a long time, right? Like different generation moves into the middle of that bell curve over time.
Yeah.
I don't.
I think it'll change. I think you're asking a fish how the air smells. You cannot take a therapist who has been raised in a culture of being in person and try to throw them online. Like we have to look outside the profession. We have to look at examples that exist in other industries, other things. Absolutely. I think there is going to be a major shift toward accessing this capacity of people who do not want to go to a therapy clinic, don't want to be in person. I'm shocked at the people in my clinic that are doing telehealth visits with physician specialists every single day. People I would never imagine would be comfortable getting on a FaceTime or a Zoom or whatever the doctor is doing with them. It's blowing my mind, and it's making me rethink my own biases.
Yeah.
But I think that it needs to start from the ground up. I think it needs to, be something that in the school systems, the schools are teaching young people who have never known what physical therapy is, that this is one way to deliver these outcomes and these experiences. The
customer and the healthcare provider, right? I mean, Google Glasses and the new Apple goggles, there's a phrase for that. The phrase is ahead of its time.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. It's ahead of its time. It's like, hey, listen, we're throwing this out there knowing this thing is not going to take off, but we're going to do, this is market research for us in real time across a real audience. Goes back to what Will Boyd was saying. It's like, you're in it for figuring out what parts about it did you think people would like, and what parts about them do they actually like, or do they actually gravitate to? You can't get to that by guessing and thinking. I think it will change. I think it'll be a while.
And if you go back again, who 50 years ago would think you would just rent a random stranger a room in your house, or rent your whole house, or would go, and pick somebody up from the bars on Friday night who you've never met when you're not a taxi cab driver with a medallion? Like, technology is going to change, experiences are going to change, people's expectations are going to change.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see it.
I don't think it's all or nothing, though. I don't think it's people will never, right, Dave?
I would just, I mean, it's not all or nothing. Yes, it might shift over time, but here, the example. Now, one thing, again, Tony always provides great rebuttals. So the fact that we didn't have DPT students learn this, it wasn't a track in school, it wasn't a class or a course in school. That is a great point. Like if you install that, like then in, 5, 6, 7, 10 years, whatever, those physical therapists, you're right. Maybe they will be better equipped than we are right now to deliver a video visit. Let's put that aside for a second. The example of Dr. Ben Boggy, so ProKinetics PT, they have 3 locations. All their marketing, their website, their communication, their ideal clientele, active clientele, active patients, active adults, and CrossFitters. They run ads. They say, hey, if you're an active adult and CrossFitter, and even he just said on and I got his approval for that for that statement. Even him, where they're active adults and CrossFitters, and he said a small percentage, a few visits per month are virtual. Now, again, to Tony's point, were all his DPTs trained in telehealth visits and how to do that during clinical rotations? No. Was it in the coursework of the DPT program? No. Great point. I agree with you, Tony. But currently, right now, he's their active population clientele, and even that clientele of patients, there's minimal demand. No one's coming and saying, do you have this? Do you offer this? Maybe you put it on the website, maybe a few more people ask about it, whatever. I just don't think we're there right now. You're right. 5, 10 years down the road, a lot of things could change. I don't think it's going to change. I think physical therapy is always going to have some physical in-person component. But there we go. Jeremy Sutton down in Louisiana. # Team Dave. Here we go, baby.
Real quick, just going back to a point that you made that I also agree with. I agree that if you take something like Hinge out of the employer-funded, benefit package and you just offer it for sale direct to the consumer, I don't know how many of those people that were getting it for free would all of a sudden say, yeah, I would pay $10 a month for that. I don't think it would happen. But to your point, what is the problem that they're solving? And I think we get a little too short-sighted. I hear therapists all the time. They're like, yeah, but we save money. And if they go to therapy, they avoid surgery. And I always ask the question, I'm like, for how long? How long do they avoid surgery? Because I get to see a lot of people who come to therapy. They have back pain. They come to therapy. We make them feel better for a while. They get discharged. We think we're the heroes. We think we're amazing. And then 5 years later, this person comes back and they had 2 surgeries between the time that we discharged them and I'm seeing them today. And I'm like, what happened? And they were like, oh, it got, I felt better. And then I got worse. And then I had surgery. So from a payer's perspective, a third-party payer, an insurance company, the therapist is short-sighted and saying, yeah, but we helped them avoid a $50,000 surgery for a little bit, but not over the lifetime of that beneficiary for the insurance company. We have no idea what happens after we discharge them from our therapy services. So I think with the employer, like, why do insurance companies now require patients to go to therapy for 6 weeks before getting an MRI? Because they know that most things are going to resolve in 6 weeks. And then if they don't, okay, we'll do the MRI. It's not because therapy is necessarily helping, quote, solve the problem. We're giving them peace of mind. We're building confidence, making them a little healthier. I think the employer, it's the same thing. The employer, it's, okay, I'm going to bring Hinge in because it's going to be a distraction. It's going to buy me time. It's a less expensive, more affordable option to lower my overall cost. Might not be perfect for one individual person, but for a community of 10,000 employees, I'm probably going to save more money with Hinge.
The question you also asked too is, when I see people marketing, we help you avoid surgery, knee surgery, and knee surgery costs $50,000. Doesn't cost me $50,000.
Yeah.
You're highlighting what it saves my insurance company. No offense. I want them to spend $50,000. You know what? Ring them up, baby, because I feel like every time I look at my paycheck every month, there's money taken out. What you've just highlighted is it doesn't cost you anything, cost your insurance company something. So talking to people about what they actually value. This is hard. There was a comment you made the other day, which is, the limitations of language of what we actually provide is difficult to convey, right? That's what makes, this is why we have so many conversations about why maybe different products or services or professions do better, and I'm using air quotes, but it's difficult to actually communicate the full width and breadth because our profession is so wide and deep.
Yeah. Are we getting ready for parting shots?
Yeah, let's do parting shots after we got Will. Will saying he feels like if a small private practice tried to sell the commodity of PT versus selling the experience and status, it's going to be a race to the bottom. If you sell yourself as a commodity,
Amen.
You will lose. You're not going to lose tomorrow. You're not going to lose next week. But over time, when things shrink, you will. But if you build relations, stories, and magic, and that's what Seth Godin said, right? People don't buy products or services. They buy relations, stories, and magic. People will want to buy that. All right, parting shots. What do you got?
Parting shot. I wish we could just be 100% virtual. It would be a lot easier on myself and my therapist. No one is going to pay $200, $300, $400, $500 a visit for a virtual visit. Now, of course, they might pay once, but we have some clients paying $2,000 a week. Show me a virtual therapist that's making $2,000 a week doing from one client. It's not happening. I wish it was like talk therapy where we could just do this virtually. I mean, yeah, and get the same outcomes. It would be great if we could. It's not the way I understand consumers right now. It is what it is. And that's our current business model. And yes, there's always room for us to listen to folks like Tony Maritato, see what they're posting, see some of their insights, incorporate some of these insights, and maybe add some of this on the front end for, consult or eval, or when they're traveling like Ben Boggy's doing, or somewhere in the continuum. In 5-10 years from now, virtual physical therapy will still be a very, very small percentage of overall visits or encounters between patient and provider.
The internet never forgets. Go to the Dave Kittle show. Go watch the video. Brian Williams, Dave Kittle. We'll come back 5 years from now and we'll see what it says.
That's your parting shot?
That's it. That's it.
That's the longest. Yeah. I think it's a yes and. People want hands-on and hands-off at different parts. It's probably not going to be all like, I understood that hiring a moving company, I'm going to have to talk to some movers at some point and let them in. I just didn't want it at the beginning. Like I wanted 3 quotes and I wanted it in 15 minutes. So if you give me that, but later on, maybe I wanted to know where my stuff was in transit. Do I have to call someone and explain what my number, or can I just click a link? So I think the answer is, what problem are you actually solving? And then how are you solving it? That's later, right? What problem? Why did I pick you over someone else? Not why you do it. That's important to you and your mission statement. But what problem are you actually solving? And then can you build different ways to solve it? If the answer is no, I'm going to pick someone else.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE@CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.